Hey y'all, it's Agu here, and I'm pretty sure by the title you can tell what we're going to be talking about today. The infrastructure bill, along with the reconciliation bill, has been a huge, maybe the main part of the news in America. There's been a lot of news talking about what's going on, what's this, what's that, like what's in the bill, what's not in the bill, is it going to get passed, uh, why Kristen Cinema and Joe Manchin not voting for the bill, and all those questions will be answered in this video. So if y'all don't know by now, I will inform you. And if you've seen other videos talking about this, well, you get to see my opinion on the whole matter, which I hope is unique and awesome. So, first things first, what is in the bill and what isn't in the bill? Because this is important. Because this was something that Joe Biden ran on. Don't get it messed up. Joe Biden promised a lot of things, and some of those promises, I don't know how many promises are exactly being kept, but definitely some of them have been cut out. Big ones, not little ones, big ones. So let's look at it. Okay. Okay, so here's what's in. Universal pre-K. Biden wants free pre-K, which is, preschool. For 3 and 4 year olds, the framework would expand access to 6 million children a year. Funding would last 6 years. The provision, along with the child care measure, would cost $400 billion, according to the White House. So this is amazing. Universal pre-K needs to be there. Absolutely needs to be there. This will really help children, help parents in the workforce. The positive impact is going to be incredible. So I'm gonna love the fact that this is in there. Now, this has been updated in 31st October. We're in the 2nd of November right now. So maybe it could be slightly outdated, but this is just from 2 days ago. Childcare. The framework would limit childcare costs for families with children younger than age 6 to no more than 7% of income for those earning up to 250% of the state median income. So this is really good, right? Because if it's only 7% of your income, maximum, of earning up to 215% of the state median income, expanding access to about 20 million children. Funding would last 6 years. This provision, along with universal pre-K, would cost $400 billion, according to the White House. So this is amazing because 20 million more children will now get affordable childcare. Absolutely, right? It'll make it affordable because it's going to limit the amount, how much it'll cost. I think it should be free, but this is a good first step. Enhanced child tax credit. The beefed up child tax credit, which provides $300 a month for each child under age 6 and $250 a month for each one ages 6 through 17, would be extended through 2022 for more than 35 million families, households earning up to $150,000 annually. Sorry, I was just checking to make sure my camera angle is good. The credit would be made permanently refundable, so the lowest income families would continue to qualify. The enhancement, which was part of the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package Democrats enacted earlier this year, is currently only in place for 2021. This credit, along with the income tax credit, would cost $200 billion, according to White House. The House bill unveiled in September would have extended the credit through 2025. I'm pretty sure that this is only going to last like 6 years now, which is pretty good. But I think it should be permanent. Anyways, earned income tax credit. The expanded income tax credit would be extended through 2022, helping 17 million low-wage childless workers. The boost, also part of the relief package, is only in place for this year, which not good at all. I'm glad this is there, but it's not good enough. It nearly triples the maximum credit childless workers can receive, extends eligibility for more people, reduces the minimum age, and eliminates the upper age limit. This credit, along with the enhanced child tax credit, would cost $200 billion, according to the White House. The earlier House bill would have extended it permanently. So basically, it should have been permanent, which is the right thing to do, but now they've cut it down for a year, which is horrible. Like, I'm glad this is there, but it needs to be permanent. Home health care. The frame calls for permanently improving Medicaid coverage for home care services for seniors and people with disabilities, with the goal of reducing more than 800,000 people on state Medicaid waiting list. This is perfect. That many people, almost 1 million people, will be at least helped by this. It also aims to improve the quality of caregiving jobs. The measure would cost $150 billion, according to the White House. Originally, Biden hoped to shower $400 billion in this effort as part of his infrastructure package, which it was supposed to be, but they've whittled it down to less than half of what it should be. It's not great. It's better than nothing, but we really got to stop taking better for nothing as a good thing. It should be 400 billion, but we're gonna stay with it. Affordable Act subsidies. The federal premium subsidies would be extended through 2025 under the framework. It would reduce the cost of coverage on the Obamacare exchanges, particularly for moderate income and middle class Americans. The boost, also part of the Democrats' relief package, is currently set to expire 2022. Okay, so this would be really, really good. Cost of coverage going down is always great. I think we should get Medicare for all, but hey, this is a good first step. This provision, along with Medicaid expansion, would cost 130 billion, according to the White House. The initial House bill would have made the enhancement permanent. So now all these have expiry dates, if you've noticed. So it's like it's not even permanent solutions; it's temporary solutions. This is so that they don't have to like have it permanent, which is really unfortunate because it should be permanent. The owner donors, I think, are not happy with the fact that any of this is being done. So I think what they want through Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema and other Democrats, because remember, a lot of people are hiding behind Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin and blaming them. And yes, they deserve blame, but don't get it messed up. There are plenty of other Democrat senators who I think for sure are not going to be happy with this bill. Medicaid expansion. Biden is calling for the Affordable Care Act premium subsidies for low-income families in the 12 states for oh God, I think my brain just literally shut down there for a second. Biden is calling for providing Affordable Care Act premium subsidies for low-income Americans in the 12 states that have not expanded Medicaid, enabling them to buy Obamacare policies with no monthly premiums. Beautiful. This provision, along with the enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies, would cost $130 billion, according to the White House. The original House bill would have provided a premium subsidies to low-income Americans until the Department of Health and Human Services would have set up a federal Medicaid expansion program that would have picked up the entire tab for enrollees' medical care. However, several Democrats from the states that have already expanded Medicaid raised objections because their states have to foot 10% of the bill. Basically, they're like, oh my God, we don't want to pay all this money to help people. Like, that's not what we're here for. You know what I mean? That's not what we're here for. Medicare hearing benefits. Hearing services would be covered under Medicare, but vision and dental benefits would not be included. Look, it was supposed to be vision, dental, and hearing. Now, according to things that I've read, hearing is a lot cheaper than vision and dental, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all can correct me on that. Maybe there are other data that shows that it isn't cheaper, but it is cheaper. So I can see why hearing was left in, but vision and dental was cut out, because again, spending money on the people that elected you who elected you to power. Now that's not a good Washington policy. Only 30% of seniors over age 70 who could benefit from hearing aids have ever used them, the White House said. The measure would cost $35 billion, according to the White House. So what is that? Only 30% of a 30%, only 30%. 30% is a lot of people. Sorry, it's still a lot of people. So, only 30% is kind of stupid to say. The framework, climate change. The framework would deliver $555 billion in tax credits and investments aimed at combating climate change. Okay. It would offer tax credits to families that install solar rooftops or buy electric vehicles, for example. Okay. That's a good thing. But are those things affordable right now? I'm not sure. Like, I'm glad they would give tax credits, but I hope those things are affordable. Again, I don't know too much about how much they cost. Because, see, I live in an apartment, so I don't really own a home. So, I don't know exactly how this would work. The investments are aimed at providing incentives to grow domestic supply chains in solar and wind industries. Okay. The president is also calling for creating 300,000 jobs by establishing a civilian climate corps that works to conserve public lands and bolster community resiliency. Oh, okay. I like this. I don't know if I know that Joe Manchin is still really upset about the climate change things because he's a coal baron. And if you don't know what that means, is he's a guy who makes a lot of money off coal. He literally owns stocks in a coal plant, if I'm not mistaken. I think he made $5 million over the last 5 years or 10 years. He's made a lot of money. He's made millions off that. And he's a senator that's talking about, can determine the outcome of climate change on this bill. Wow. That's insane, America. Y'all need to fix your government, man. Anyways, affordable housing. This is a problem we have here in Canada too. Our housing situations are really bad price-wise. Like, there's no way a middle class or poor person will ever be able to afford a house in their lifetime now. The framework would enable the construction, rehabilitation, and improvement of more than 1 million affordable homes. It would address the capital needs of public housing in big cities and rural America, and would provide rental assistance to hundreds of thousands of additional families. Beautiful. The measure would also invest in a down payment assistance and in community-led redevelopment projects in under-resourced neighborhoods. This is really, really good for poor people and people who are reliant on, public housing. I'm always down for that. The effort would cost $150 billion. Oh, that's very nice. The Pell Grants. Okay. Pell Grants. Yeah. Even thinking about it is getting me mad. You're gonna see why. Pell Grants. The president's measure would increase the maximum Pell Grant by $550 for more than 5 million students enrolled in the public and private non-profit colleges, and expand access to undocumented students brought to the U.S. as children who are known as Dreamers. I like the Dreamers thing, but that's not what it is. My problem. The problem is the fact that the Pell Grant is already like $6,100, and it'll only increase it by $550. See, this was supposed to be a free community care college. Instead, we got Pell Grants. And now I'm going to show you why Pell Grants are bad. Watch. So, how much money can you get? Now, this is in July 21st to June 30, 2020. $6,495 maximum federal. That's the maximum. So, the amount you get will depend on your expected family contribution, the cost of attendance determined by your school or your specific program, your status as a full-time or part-time student, and your plans to attend a school for a full academic year or yet less. Anyways, income limits for Pell Grants in 2020. Understand your eligibility. Does free money for college sound good to be true? The federal government actually offers this info. Okay, whatever. Okay, so let's look at the Pell Grant income limits. There's no hard and fast income limit for receiving a Pell Grant. You can be eligible to receive one to help you pay for college if your EFC is significantly less than your COA. I don't know what that is. You can only qualify for what you need based on how much it will cost to go to your school and your family's assets and income. The FAFSA forecaster can help you calculate which types and how much federal student aid you qualify for. Typically, the lower income and the greater your expenses, the more financially needy you'll be to consider. The Pell Grant program generally provides aid to low-income families who would otherwise not be able to afford the cost of higher education. Here's a general breakdown of the Pell Grant funding. Okay. So, so if your family has an adjusted gross income of $26,000 or less, your AFC is calculated at 0, and you would can qualify up to the maximum amount of the Pell Grant funding if your school costs more than $6,195 a year to attend. So you have to go for a program which costs more, which a lot of programs do. Okay, so you can qualify for $6,000. That's great. Okay, that's good. And Biden's only added like $550, so he's like, that's not gonna make that much of a difference. It doesn't do anything really. This is only if you're making less than your adjusted family, like your adjusted gross income is $26,000 or less. So this is when you're really, really poor. Now, if your family makes less than $30,000 a year, you will likely qualify for a good amount of the. So good amount is again really vague. It can be like not enough, right? So this is really good for poor income families. But even then, like any program that costs, like let's say you want to do an engineering program. So let's see how much engineering costs. It can cost up to $40,000, the average cost of studying engineering in the USA. And only in terms of fixed academic charges, with academic accommodation and living expenses, it could be $60,000 annually. Annually. Think about it. This is annually, and you're only getting $6,000 a year. At most. You're getting $6,000 and he's increased to $65,000. So it's, like, let's say you want to do engineering. You can't do engineering. There's no way you can do engineering. Even the poorest family with the most amount of Pell Grant won't be able to. Right? And if your family makes about $30,000 to $60,000 a year, you can qualify for some funding. And if your family makes more than $60,000, again, $60,000 as a family is not that much at all. You won't qualify at all. So instead of giving you free community college, right? Free community college, you now have to rely on a Pell Grant that will only really give the poorest families a lot of money, and even then they won't have nearly enough money to do an engineering degree. So let's look at, so again, not all these are obviously top levels, but look at this. Education is out of reach now. So let's look at another degree. Let's look at psychology. A bachelor's degree in psychology can cost anywhere from $8,000 to $60,000 annually. So if you want a really good program, it's probably going to cost closer to here. So imagine that you still only get $6,000 annually. Well, imagine you're going for a program, let's just say $30,000, half of the max amount. You're still only getting $6,000. You still have to pay $24,000 a year. That's insane. No middle class or lower income families are definitely not going to be able to afford that. This is just a clinical psychology. I've gone from engineering to clinical psychology, two very different fields, and they're very, very expensive, right? So my point is that the Pell Grant doesn't really do anything. It doesn't. What does it do, right? It's great. I'm glad there's money. Problem is not, oh, they just need more money to pay for these things. It's that's true, you need more money, but it's just that these things are so expensive, very expensive, these programs. So they need to do something better by giving free community college. Higher education should not cost you money. It should be free, in my opinion. It should be affordable, at the very least affordable. But I think the best thing would be for it to be free. So Pell Grant, it's meaningless, trust me. It doesn't change anything. And $550 is not going to do anything. Let's look at children nutrition. This is good. Framework would expand free school meals to 8.7 million children during the school year and provide the parents 29 million kids $65 per child per month benefit to purchase food during the summer. Wow, this is beautiful. Immigration. The president is calling for a $100 billion investment to reform the nation's immigration system, as well as reduce backlogs, expanding legal representation, and make changes to the asylum system and border processing. This is good. Again, I'm not a huge expert on the American immigration thing, so I'm not going to comment too much on that. But, it's a good thing. Democrats fractured over measures to cover the original $3.5 trillion spending proposal. Initial plans to make companies and well-off Americans pay by raising the corporate tax rate at the top. Marginal individual income and capital gains were scuttled by Democratic moderate Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona. Oh, I wonder why. Maybe because you get millions and millions of dollars of corporate PAC money? That might have to do something with it. The party then floated a billionaire tax on the capital gains of the super wealthy, but that was quickly withered after resistance from another key Democrat senator, moderate, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, and several others in the Senate and House. So all the corrupt senators banded together and stopped an actual tax increase. In the framework, Biden ultimately settled on a mix of corporate and individual revenue-raising measures. I wonder what the heck that means. Corporate taxes. The framework would put in place a 15% minimum tax on the corporate profits that large companies report to shareholders, not to the Internal Revenue Service. This would apply companies with more than $1 billion in profits. The proposal also includes a 1% surcharge on corporate stock buybacks. Yeah, so it's a minimum tax, which is nice, but I would have preferred to actually just increasing the corporate tax and also having a billionaire tax. That would have been much better, in my opinion. Oops, I think I kicked my camera. Let's see. Oh, we're still good. Okay. Yeah. So, I don't know what corporate stock buybacks are. So, yeah. So, the surcharge could bring in significant revenue. Through the first 6 months of the 2021 alone, the S&P 500 companies repurchased $6.9 billion in stock. Mind-boggling amount of money, according to the S&P Dow Jones indices. Under the buyback surcharge announced by the White House, they would owe $6.1 billion, which is amazing. Companies use buybacks to earn extra cash to shareholders. Wall Street loves buybacks because these repurchases boost demand for shares and at the same time limit supply. They also inflate per share profits, a key metric that drives the stock market. So basically it benefits them in every way for them to use buybacks. Critics of buybacks, however, say many companies would have abused this mechanism to the detriment of the broader economy and everyday Americans. Yeah, of course they have. They've abused the hell out of this, getting extra cash, and benefiting them. And I don't even know if they pay it in taxes before this. Maybe they do, but clearly not, because they're 1% surcharge tax. So they're making an insane amount of money, and none of it, or barely any of it, was going to us. The framework notes that the corporate executives often use buybacks to enrich themselves rather than investing in workers and growing the economy. What a shock, eh? Like, come on, man. Rich people hoarding wealth that they've made by exploiting people. Just this week, Facebook boosted its share buyback plan by 50 billion. Wow. Under the buyback surcharge announced by the White House, Facebook would owe 500 million. Beautiful. Trump's tax cuts enacted in 2017, one of the worst tax cuts probably in the time I've been alive, slashed the corporate tax rate to 21% from 35%. Wow. Think about that. Although the stated purpose of the tax law was to encourage companies to invest in real economy business, spending on factories and equipment and software did not live up to the hype. By early 2019, Bank of America declared it the investment boom that wasn't. Yeah, what a surprise. You give them a corporate tax break, and then they take all the extra money, and then they enrich themselves. They don't care about anything else. What a shock. Major companies did, however, reward shareholders by plowing excess profits into record amounts of buyback in 2018, which earned each quarter setting up an all-time high. In 2017, when taxes were cut substantially, you did not see any surge in investment spending. Instead, what you saw was a surge of stock buybacks. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told the lawmakers during a hearing last month. Of course, they're going to use buybacks as just basically enriching themselves. That's all it is. This is why that surcharge 1% tax is amazing. And it's just a 1% tax and it's raising billions. So just imagine how much money they're making. So yeah, that's ridiculous. So we should have had a billionaire tax, and we should have definitely had a capital gains tax increase. Like in Canada, we have a 51% capital gains tax. Just think about that. And it works really well, which is why we have all these amazing social programs. But obviously, we still need to have better. We can improve. We're not near, like, for example, the Nordic models of social programs. We're kind of in the middle, where we're not all the way there, but we're definitely better than y'all, Americans. Anyways, y'all should definitely had a billionaire tax and definitely need a high, I think I would say 51% capital gains tax for sure. Also, it would impose a 15% minimum tax calculated on country by basis that would American companies pay on foreign profits, consistent with an agreement Biden recently won among 136 countries. The provision would yield an estimated $800 billion, the White House said. Taxes on the rich. Now, this is good, by the way. The wealthiest Americans would pay a 5% surtax on income above 10 million. Beautiful. An additional 3% levy on income above 25 million. The framework would also close the loopholes to allow some affluent taxpayers to avoid paying 3.8% net investment income tax on their earnings. It would continue the limitation on excess business losses. The measure would raise $650 billion, the White House estimates. Very, very nice. The IRS enforcement. The framework would beef up IRS enforcement so that it can ensure that people are paying what they owe to Uncle Sam. The new enforcement measure would focus on Americans with the highest incomes, not those earning less than $400,000 a year. This provision would bring in an estimated $400 billion, according to the White House. Again, I like this. Rebate rule. Biden's plan calls for blocking the implementation of a Trump administration regulation that would change the drug industry's rebate system, though it currently isn't set to go into effect until 2023. The rule effectively would ban drug makers from providing rebates to pharmacy benefit managers and insurers. Instead, drug companies would be encouraged to pass the discounts directly to patients at the pharmacy counter. Blocking it would yield $1.5 billion, according to the White House estimate. So basically, the money won't be the rebates won't go to the people who already have a lot of money. It'll go to those who need it. Right? Here's what's out. Here's the negatives. Free community college. Biden initially called for making tuition free 2 years at the community college, but it's been dropped entirely from the framework. We got the Pell Grant instead, which, as I explained earlier in the video, is peanuts. It's like crumbs of crumbs of crumbs. Paid family and sick leave. This, I think, is atrocious. Think about this. America is the only industrialized country, I think, that does not have any proper paid family and sick leave. Only under 20% of companies in America have paid and family sick leave. And even then, it's not nearly enough. Biden also wanted to create a federally funded paid family and sick leave program for the millions of Americans who don't already receive the benefit from the employer. He first called for 12 weeks of paid leave, which was reduced then to 4 weeks during negotiations, but even the scale-back version was left completely out from the framework. Horrible. Progressives do not vote on this bill. Medicare, dental, and vision benefits. The proposal does not include expanding Medicare to include vision and dental coverage. Both long-time goals of Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Dental coverage in particular would have been costly. Oh, it's costly, eh? But it's not too costly to give tax breaks to the rich. No. Not too costly to spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on defense. Medicare drug negotiation also gone in a controversial provision to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices amid opposition for some Democrats. How is it controversial? This isn't controversial. It's only controversial in Washington. So many people want this. I think I saw a poll which said 88% of Americans want some sort of Medicare drug negotiation, some high ridiculous, and we're talking about including a lot of Republicans. Even those crazy people want it too. So yeah, it's not controversial outside of Washington. Okay, it would have offset an estimated $700 billion in spending. So, state and local tax deduction. It was critical to some Democrats that the package would have lifted or repealed the $10,000 cap on state and local tax deduction, known as SALT. That was put in place by the Republican-backed Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017, but the framework makes no mention of it. Yeah, so a lot of tax breaks to the rich here, so that's really bad. But the worst ones, I think, are the free community college, paid family sick leave, Medicare, the fact that they've cut down all these Medicare stuff. These two, okay, I'll tell you what I absolutely want. Paid family and sick leave and Medicare drug negotiation absolutely has to be in the bill. That's the bare minimum that progressives should say. Then we will think about voting. We will consider it. But without those two, we will not vote. That's what you got to do. Because those two things need to be in there. Absolutely need to be in there. They just do. It's ridiculous that you don't have paid family and sick leave. That Medicare should negotiate drug prices, not the private companies. Crazy. Anyways, so as we've seen, what's in, what's out, we've talked about it. This bill was originally supposed to be 6 trillion, 3.5, and now the compromise. Okay, so think about it. They said they're going to compromise with 3.5 trillion. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe 2.8, 2.5. 1.75. How is 1.75 trillion a compromise of 3.5 trillion? That doesn't make any sense. A compromise between 3.5 and 1 trillion, and it's 1.75 trillion. Oh my god. Yeah. That's a compromise in Washington.